will be recorded.
It's a team. It's a team.
Can I get everybody please silence your phones? Meeting's called to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have any additional items? I have none. The only thing we're going to do is we're going to move number 12, the urban renewal.
Ray, I can't hear you.
So we're going to move the urban renewal, will be the number one topic tonight. That's the only change that is made as of this time. And when he's done speaking, then ask your questions, and please ask one at a time, so we don't overrun one another. I would appreciate it. Michelle? Yeah.
Because I would like to add on, at our last meeting, there was a question regarding the no trespass, where the water treatment plant is going to be built, and so I want Sean to give an update of where we are with that.
You want to do that now? Here, Sean.
I'm Sean, Public Works Director, John Lakeview. Over on where the new treatment facility plant's going to be going, we found some broken manholes. What we did is we closed off the whole entire field till we could get out there. We went out there, we fenced those manholes, and we moved the no trespassing signs across towards the middle of the field, across the ditch. That way people can still use that area from that little access road, kind of on the east side of that area. It backs up to, what was it, Buller Creek? And Lakeview subdivision to where the horse fencing area is. So we open that up so people can still walk dogs there, walk yourself there, and we're asking not to go past the no trespassing sign to where we'll be building the facility eventually. Any questions?
Where's the facility at?
It's gonna be over, off 3rd Street,
Across the Babe Ruth Field.
across from Babe Ruth Fields.
Why is it over there?
That's where the water treatment facility plant's gonna be.
But the pump line comes down Second.
And it will be tied in together. That's
You're
another
talking a
question.
big difference.
That's another question for the water treatment facility. This is what we've got going on out in that field right now that's closed because of unsafe manholes.
Okay.
Go ahead and give it to Nick. Nick, Michelle, you gotta go. Go ahead.
Can you hear me okay? All right. My name is Nick Green, and I'm a consultant working with the town of Lakeview on a new urban renewal area plan. And I am a firm believer in short meetings, so I'm going to do my part to keep the meeting short. I'm going to present the basics. There's more information on a poster in the back and a little QR reader. If your phone will take a picture of it, it'll take you to a website where you can learn more. So tonight is going to be introductory about the concept and how we plan to implement urban renewal. So with that, I do have a presentation. Okay, I realize this is really hard to see, but back in 2021, the town started looking at alternatives to address housing. And And that included several studies. One was potential urban renewal area. We looked at several different options. In August of last year, the town council passed an ordinance to create an urban renewal agency, which also included a declaration of blight. And so what that essentially does is it gives the town council the authority to start to do some things under Oregon Revised Statute 457, which is the urban renewal legislation, that they wouldn't otherwise be able to do. And part of tonight's discussion and presentation is to explain what the council is proposing to give you an opportunity to consider whether that works for you and the kind of feedback you want to give the council before they adopt the plan. So in 2019, we had Echo Northwest come out. They did a housing needs analysis for Lakeview and Paisley, looking at buildable lands and opportunities for housing, and they provided a set of recommendations. They also did what's called an economic opportunities assessment, which is equivalent to a housing needs analysis, except it looks at commercial and industrial lands. And then we also tied in our plans and proposals to SCOED's Economic Development District's 5-year comprehensive economic development strategy. And those two studies were done last fall. And so what does that all mean and why do you care? Well, we have a housing problem in Lake County. We have a housing problem in Oregon. Anyone want to guess where Lake County ranks relative to the other counties in annual housing production? Wow, you guys are getting there, right? Good job. We're winning the race to the bottom. You're not dead last. That goes to Wallowa County, who built one home in 2020. But you are third to last. So you're sandwiched in between Harney and Grant. Rural frontier Oregon has a lot of constraints. We've got a lot of floodplain. We've experienced a lot of boom and bust cycles in our economies. We have aging populations. We're getting older at a higher rate, with more older residents than younger, faster growing communities. And we have a lot of aging infrastructure. We've also been victimized, and I know we're being recorded, but the state knows how I feel about this, so I'm not sharing any new information. Oregon's land use policies are really state-driven. It's a centrally managed process. Even though Goal 1 is citizen participation, local knowledge and feedback tends to take a backseat to state mandates for land conservation, preservation of wilderness areas, wildland and urban interfaces, geohazard mitigation, floodplain management, and so all these things compound to make it very difficult and cost prohibitive to build in rural Oregon. What does that mean for our rural frontier communities? We experience blight. Blight is defined in Oregon Revised Statute 457 as the exact conditions that you see all around you when you're driving through town. Buildings that are boarded up, water systems that don't work properly, sidewalks that are deteriorating. Also characterized as part of blight is stagnant or declining populations, and Lakeview's population is declining, and it's forecasted to continue to decline. So what is urban renewal doing to address this problem? Well, we're going to help homeowners improve their properties by offering cash incentives to renovate their homes. We're going to offer developers and home builders and prospective homeowners who want to build new with cash incentives to build new homes. And we're also going to provide cost savings measures to offset the cost of land development, infrastructure, and planning. We have to establish an urban renewal area to do that, and that urban renewal area is shown in a map that's back here, and it's in pink. You can be amended into the boundaries if you're not included already. But under the statute, we have to define the area at the outset, and it can't be more than 25% of your land and 25% of your assessed value. So we have to stay below those two thresholds when we define the plan area. I'm going to run through the programs briefly. The first one is planning and code assistance. So helping to offset the cost to submit plans and get those plans permitted. There will be incentives for that. Second area is land acquisition and due diligence. If you're looking at doing subdivisions or building on an unimproved lot, there can be financial assistance to acquire that property and get it ready for a home to sit on. So turning undeveloped land into shovel-ready land. We can also provide assistance with all of this complicated environmental due diligence, making sure all of the permitting is done so that the land is buildable. That's another element of the program. Another one is infrastructure investment. So let's say you found a lot, and the lot is buildable, and it's in the plan area, but you're 5 blocks from the nearest water line. We can help offset the cost to extend that water line or sewer line to the property so that you're building on a level playing field with someone else who comes into a community and they have a lot that's already connected to services. We can also use that to offset system development charges if those are adopted at some point down the road. For the development incentives for the houses themselves, what we're proposing is cash back, which would be a percentage of your final assessed value. So let's say you have a property that's assessed at $30,000 because it's bare land and has nothing on it. And then you build a home that is assessed at $100,000, so a very small house. We would look at that change in assessed value, so you increase the taxable value of the home by $100,000. We're going to give you 7% cash back on that difference, so you would get a check for $7,000 as soon as that asset hits the tax rolls. So that's a pretty good incentive, and it scales. $200,000 home, you're going to get a check for $14,000, $300,000 home, $21,000, so on and so forth. We don't have infinite amounts of money, so what we're proposing to do when all of these are combined is end up at a maximum benefit of $45,000 per unit. Not everyone will reach that, but if I were building a home and someone offered me up to $45,000 in development incentives, I wouldn't look twice at that, right? It looks pretty attractive. So that's the program in a nutshell. We also have set aside funding for manufactured homes for both rehabilitation and replacement of manufactured homes. So our target in the plan is 200 homes over 20 years. It means we would need to build or replace 10 new homes per year. That's probably a 5 times increase over what you're doing today. So it's going to take some time to ramp up to that. What we expect is it'll be a few houses in the early years, and then it's going to sort of peak out in the middle years and then decline as those buildable lands within the district are gobbled up. There's financials. We can go through and if you have questions about them. Take-home message. When this is all said and done, in year 21, at the end of the urban renewal area, we expect to have increased the tax receipts for your public agencies by about 2.5 times over what they are today. So library, county, hospital, town of Lakeview, that's how we fund basic and essential services in Oregon. It's based on property tax receipts and state shared revenue that's distributed on a per capita basis. They count heads, and then they send money equivalent to those heads. So healthy communities that can sustain those essential services like fire and police are growing enough to offset the cost increase that happens each year due to those macroeconomic factors that surround us. These folks sitting at the table are doing their best. Sometimes it feels like they've got to make the correct wrong choice because you only have bad options ahead of you. One of those things that's been hitting our rural communities is that cost in the market, and we aren't price makers, we're price takers. Public Works goes out to buy pipe, water line, sewer line, whatever it is, they're going to get a quote based on whatever the market value is. They don't care if your sewer rates or your water rates can cover that cost. It's just what they're going to pass on to you. So the way we overcome that is by adding enough people to our community that it becomes sustainable again. What that might look like for Lakeview initially is active retirees who are coming from other areas of the state who like Lakeview and want to stretch their dollars, but need a place to live. The good thing is they're coming with their own sources of income. Some of it might be comeback kids, your kids, moving back home to be close to mom and dad. Some of it will be digital commuters that can work from anywhere and are choosing to live and work here. And some of them will come to fill jobs that are already available in the community. So we don't need everyone to come. We need about 10 families a year to hit those targets. If we do that, we can raise your tax base by about 2.5 times. So with that, that's the basics of the program. We're using a new agency called Regional Rural Revitalization as a funding source. They essentially will be the bank They'll provide the incentive funding to the town can leverage that funding to cover the cost of incentives, and then the town recovers that by capturing the full value of the tax increment. That change in tax value goes to the urban renewal agency until those incentives are repaid. So that's how the program works. We'll have public comment over the next 30 to 45 days. Each public agency will have an opportunity to read the report and comment on it, and then the council will take those changes back and make a decision on whether to adopt or not in July. Any questions?
Thank you.
So,
Can I take this off, Nick? Oh, no, you can. You can come speak at the podium if you choose. The microphone's there too.
sorry.
So I'm Mike McGowan. The question, if you're going to increase by 200 homes, then we're planning to increase the population of the town by 30%?
450 people.
That's the number. And have there been any studies that will talk about what 450 new people in our town would mean to our schools, our fire and life safety, policing, town government, public works, all the other, and if there are studies, can you tell us what they say?
There's a state formula for state shared revenue for the school districts. And it's typically about $9,800 to $10,000 per student. Special ed students get a little bit more, really small schools get a little bit more. But if you think of those 450 new residents, and you assume maybe 100 of those could be school-aged children, then you're going to take that 100 and you're going to multiply it by $10,000 per student. So it's a pretty good increase in the budget for the school districts. It allows them to fund additional capital improvement projects, hire and retain their teachers, address some of those chronic problems. And the same happens for our state shared revenue for water, or for liquor, or fuel tax. Those hit your street fund and your general fund, which then becomes available for fire and emergency services and police. Your streets, I would hazard a guess, are well below their actual design capacity. They may not be in very good condition, but they were probably designed for a lot more volume than you're seeing today. So you probably aren't going to need to build a lot of new streets. What you're going to have to do is connect those existing streets to subdivisions and driveways, so those houses can be built. When we implemented this program in John Day in 2018, in the prior decade, they'd only built 3 homes in a 10-year period. And we now average 4 a year, a little over 4. We've had 17 new homes built. 100% of those have been built by county residents who are already in the county for a variety of reasons. Some are rentals, some are owner-occupied. But it's gotten very good utilization, and we're not quite where we want to be, but we're doing a heck of a lot better than we were. And pictures of those houses are on the poster back there. You can see it's dealer's choice. No one's saying what you have to build. It's entirely up to you.
Mike, when I talked to Mr. Carter yesterday, and he was pretty excited about having more children come, because like you say, you get about $8,000 or $9,000, and for what would come in, you wouldn't have to hire a lot of people to take care of that. You know, it just, because we used to have 1,200, and now we're way down as far as kids. So
No, if I could just respond, it sounds very positive, but it's a big change for our community, right? Increasing by a number, when we've been static or negative growth, increasing by 20%, 25% over the course of the period, sounds meaningful to me. What my question was, have there been any studies that would take this growth and tell us what the impact will be on the schools, on the infrastructure, on the public safety? And I'm hearing your answer is no.
Yeah, other than being able to analyze the cost impacts on those agencies, and the fact that since 1990, Lakeview lost about 220 residents. So about half of what you would project to gain over the next 20 years, the first 10 years of that, you're recovering what you've already lost. You've been there before. But no, as far as specific studies, I don't know that anyone's looked at that. Sir?
So, yeah, I'm curious, are you working on the other side of this puzzle, and that is, what's going to be the attraction that's going to bring 200 new families here over the next 20 years, when we've been losing people, you know, because of various reasons, whatever they are, but we're, you know, the economic development side of it, I guess. You know, we've got one grocery store in town, but a lot of the other things we've had have either gotten smaller or left. And so we need, what's going to support these 200 people or to attract them here to start with and keep them here once we get them?
Well, when I had lunch with a gentleman that bought Red Rock, Next Renewable Resources, and his parting words were, he said, how many people live here? And I said, about 2,200. And he says, well, I know that. There's going to be 4,000 to 5,000 in the next couple of years. Well, he's going to hire immediately 100 people. And that's going to go to 200 probably out there. Our cement manufacturing is going to start at 30 people, from 50 to 58,000 a year. So I think we're going to be behind the 8 ball on houses if we don't get something going.
That's good.
I mean, that's
Those were the 2 projects I really was hoping maybe would be addressed.
Oh, okay. Well,
I will yield the floor back to the council, because we've got a lot to cover tonight, but they have to get a hold of me if anybody has questions, and there's also the information on the board.
And I can print these out and hand out, right? So if anybody wants anything, just let me know tomorrow.
All right, gentlemen in the back, get the last question.
Does any of this go towards commercial, like money for business? I can't hear you hardly talking back here, it's really hard to hear. So is any of this, if somebody wants to come in and build a grocery store or a department store, can they get funding?
The council has that option. John Day stayed purely on residential. Burns included commercial and mixed use. So you do have the option, the council has the option to amend the boundary to provide those incentives to commercial developments if they elect to do so.
Because something has to draw people here, and it sure as hell isn't what we have.
And this is part of that complexity is it's not the chicken or the egg, it's the hen house. So we're going to build the hen house, and then somebody else is going to have to work on the chickens. We've got to do this together, but we will get there. This is an important part of the broader equation. The rest of it is about fixing the water system and creating those recreational amenities and everything else that the council's going to be talking about tonight. Sir?
Where are you planning on putting these houses?
In Lakeview. That was a rude response. We have some buildable land today.
Where?
Scattered throughout the urban renewal area. There's individual lots. You know, you've got a lot for sale right now. It looks like it's got utilities serving it, but no house on it. There are probably some older homes that would take advantage of the renovation, or would just delete the older home and build something new on it if they knew they could have that much of an incentive coming back. And then we've got some larger tracts that we've included that have subdivisions already platted, but no houses on them.
Are they putting the houses on the property the city just bought?
Survey says no.
Huh?
No.
I was gonna say, they'll have to fill it about 3 to 4 feet.
As long as you want me to. Yes, ma'am.
How many of these jobs that you're anticipating that Jay was talking about are skilled labor, and how many are manual labor? Because we have, for example, a mill in town that can't get enough people to work. So again, what's going to attract people here? Is it going to, because we don't have the skilled labor that can go into Red Rock if it requires skilled labor.
Sandy, when I talked to Clarence out there at Collins, they were going to put on a second shift. They couldn't find housing for people, so they couldn't put on the second shift. This is one of the reasons we definitely need housing here, because they want to put on 2 shifts.
The problem you're going to have is that the housing isn't going to match with the business openings. If he's going to hire immediately 100 people, where are they going to live? I mean, you're not gonna have your houses done by the time Red Rock opens, or you're gonna have 2 or 3,
So we're
so.
gonna have a man camp and some other things. That's why we're having a meeting.
The man camp,
Well, that's one option, is to have that, you know, like when the pipeliners were here,
The RV spaces.
you know.
And they bring their own RVs, right?
So anyway, that's what we're here to talk about, is how we're gonna solve some of these problems.
We are putting together production contracts with home builders, and some of them are alternative building material companies. So 3D concrete printing is one type of construction we're looking at to increase the pace of construction. Cross-laminated timber and mass timber elements that can be prefabricated and shipped and then assembled on site. So there's a lot of creative options that might help to start to address that backlog in pipeline while we build the local labor pool, because you still have to have certified plumbers and electricians and excavators and masons and everybody else that's got to put the pieces of the house together in order for the vertical construction to take place. So think of this not just as we're going to create housing, but we're going to be creating jobs that create housing as we go. And I hear what you're saying about, well, why would anyone choose to live here and where are they going to work? These are the same questions that people were asking in Grant County, and they didn't realize that there was already latent demand in the community for new housing. People that wanted to build a home where mom and dad could age in place and do it safely, where there's not stairs and there's wider hallways, there's ADA access into the bathroom. So we're seeing all of that type of housing from people that already have a need. They're not looking for the jobs, they're looking for the nicer place to live. So I think you're going to be surprised at how quickly you see demand in your market shift. I think a lot of the barriers you've been facing lately have been due to lack of investment, and that's part of the problem we're trying to solve.
You know, I hear what you're saying, but I think I've been through Grant County lately. Maybe you're from John Day. And like this gentleman over here said, there's a total difference between our community and Grant County. I mean, their storefronts are full. They have some good businesses. They have a draw to the community. They have nice green spaces that have been maintained, parks and pools. And you look around our community, and the one biggest green space we have in this town, the one that you just bought, the mayor here wants to put up public works in the middle of it. So
That was a suggestion, Dustin.
that, he told me, matter of fact, that
It was
happening.
not set in stone.
Okay, you don't have to be rude.
I'm not being rude, I'm just stating a fact.
I mean, these are certainly part of that community conversation. We're going to put some, you certainly have a chance to comment, we're going to put some programs together to give you a chance to look at the details of how it operates. Think of it as a tool in the toolkit. It's not going to be the silver bullet, it's not going to solve all the problems, but we want to start bringing these options to the community so that you can take advantage of them, where today they're just not available. Yes, ma'am.
How much are these houses going to cost for the average homeowner that you're bringing in here?
So the homeowners are choosing what to build, so it's going to cost whatever they want it to.
Oh, so upwards of $400,000?
It might be $400,000. The most expensive one in Grant County that we did under the program appraised at $480,000.
$480,000.
The least
So the
expensive-
tax base on that will be for the property tax for
$6,000 a month.
$6,000
A year.
a year for the tax.
Feels like $6,000 a month.
Yeah, I'm sure.
$6,000.
But that would be probably the house payment itself, most likely.
Like $2,800?
$2,800 a month?
Right.
So after they're done building their homes here on there, and they're done, what do those people, where do they work after that?
Well, like I said before, all of them are already in our county. So
They're already what?
they're already in the county. They were renting.
They're renting.
They were before.
Okay, so now they're renting.
No,
They
no,
don't
no, no.
own the home.
No, ma'am. They were renting, and then they built the home under the program. So now they're no
So
longer
you're
renting.
getting people from the community that are electricians, masons, and builders.
Yes.
We don't have those people here in this community.
Well, I think you will when you start to build 10 to 20 homes a year.
We have one plumber, one electrician, that's it.
I
And
had
we
this-
can barely get them to come to our home.
I had this conversation with an electrician in our county, and he said if I knew I had 10 homes that I could work on, I would hire 2 apprentices. So some of it is just making sure they have enough.
I have been waiting for 6 weeks for the plumber to come to my house, and I have had an appointment. So I'm sorry that you cannot get that to happen.
Thank you.
I will tell you, there's 2 plumbers, 3 electricians here.
I got one last question.
Well, all right, we're gonna have to hurry because we've got a lot to go over.
Right, all I was gonna suggest is that you put a lot of emphasis on that commercial option. Because what this community needs, we need the infrastructure. You bring 400 more people into this community, the Safeway parking lot is packed. So you gotta have, additional grocery stores. You gotta create businesses where people are producing a product and not just retail stuff, And so that's what I'm suggesting, that you guys really look at bringing in business to attract those people. Because the housing costs, one of the properties going through the roof, the materials, plus you've got, the closest is 100 miles away. You're not gonna get all your housing materials from Dan down here at Ace Hardware. That's all.
Yeah, I've talked to the guys at Holiday Market and stuff like that, and they would be willing to come down if we had a few more people. So I have personally contacted quite a few stores because I'd like to know the grocery store.
Well, we've got people in this community drive down to Alturas.
Yeah.
I take
That's what
a
I'm saying.
I do.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%.
Make it quick, Amanda.
All right, so I'm just listening to all this. I think on paper, it sounds really good. I think there's some mathematical logistics on this. I think focusing on commercial is a good idea. We're talking about adding 450 people to this community, which has been discussed, the infrastructure, the health, the police, fire services, schools, all would have to adjust. But we're also talking about renovating or building, what'd you say, 200 new homes?
Over 20 years.
Over 20 years, but regardless of whether it's over 1 year or 20, we're talking adding 200 homes. And the average cost of building a home right now is $250,000. If you're going to be renovating, you're looking at spending $50,000 to $100,000. The rent on those, or the mortgage on those properties when they are approved, goes up. We can all agree on that. Interest rates right now are up, so you're going to be talking about having mortgages of $1,200–1,500 a month. That's rentals. Mortgages will be higher than that right now because of interest rates. When our median income in Lake County is $24,308 per year, so that's roughly $2,000 a month.
So what about all the rentals that are already $1,200?
I agree, but the majority of the jobs you're talking about bringing in are going to be manual labor if you're referring to like the mill and whatnot. I don't know that they can afford the rentals or the mortgages on improved homes. So we need to take that into consideration as well.
Or a $480,000 house.
All right, I'm gonna take one more question, that's it, then we're moving on.
To look at it the other way, I don't think anybody is saying that there's a plan to create a housing market that's going to be above and beyond private homeowners. Each homeowner gets to decide their own budgets, how much they can afford. So for a group to decide, $400,000, that's too much. That just doesn't work either. We need something. Let's just give it a shot. You have until July, and you decide you're going to have different. Let's not make up our mind right now. Let's listen, and maybe it'll come out to be, hey, this is a chance. This might work. It's not going to be all at once. Just like you said.
to say, well, this is going to cost this much. Each private homeowner gets to decide how much do they have, how much do they want to spend. I don't know what's going to cost. Thank you.
Thank you. So along those lines, if the council does choose to adopt the URA and it doesn't work, then we just shut it down. I mean, it's at least we're saying that we want to try something instead of saying no to everything and then needing something. So we're aware of that there's issues. We're aware of, interest rates and the cost and plumbers, and we're all aware of that. So this is just a tool to add to the council to be able to say, let's try it. And if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work.
Just under consideration.
Yeah.
Well, then let's not make a decision.
All right, let's move on. Let's go to the water treatment facility, Troy.
Good evening. My name is Troy Baker. I'm with Anderson Perry Associates. We're the engineering firm that the town of Lakeview has hired to do your water system improvements, engineering and design.
Could you speak up?
Yes, sir.
There we go.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You guys can hear me in the back?
Yeah.
Okay. My name's Troy Baker. I'm with Anderson Perry Associates. We're the engineering firm that the town of Lakeview has hired to do the design and engineering of your water system improvements project. And what I'm here tonight to do is to provide you with a progress report on where we are with the project. We've made what I consider really good progress to date. And so I wanted to share with you those tasks that we've completed, what's coming next, and what our overall project schedule is, so you have an idea of when this project will be done, the design and construction of the project started and completed, okay?
Keep going.
Okay, so what we've done so far with the project is we've done a flight of the town, which we hired a sub-consultant to take an airplane. They flew over the town to do ortho photography or aerial photos. And then what we do with those is then we put design grade topographic information on those maps that we can use to lay out water lines, we can use to lay out other facilities at a design grade level. So that's a very good tool that the town has now that they can not only use for this project, but projects in the future. And then what we've also done is a pretty rigorous water quality sampling program to document the water quality in your wells. And then we use that data and that information to then look at alternatives to treat that water. So what kind of process would best fit the town, given the water quality that we're seeing in your wells and your sources? And so based on that, we concluded that the town would best be suited to utilize what's called pressure filtration, utilizing a specific type of filtration media that targets the removal of iron and manganese. And so based on that, then what we've also done is we prepared a request for proposal documents that then provided all of the rules, so to speak, to put out to public bid a system to do the treatment. So in other words, a packaged water treatment equipment package to treat the water. And based on that, the town received 3 proposals from specific vendors that do this type of work all the time. That's what they focus on, is they provide treatment equipment to remove iron and manganese and other contaminants from the water. And so we went through a process of, once we got the proposals from the specific vendors, we went through a process of ranking those proposals and scoring them. And based on that, then the town selected a firm by the name of Lowprest. Lowprest is a firm out of Colorado. And based on all the proposals, the town felt that that was the best firm to provide the treatment package for your system. And now what we did is, after that, then by law or by rule, we had to put out a notice of intent to award the project to Lowprest. So that requires a 7-day protest period where the other firms could have protested for some reason, but we didn't get any. So based on that, then the town went forward with what's called a memorandum of understanding. Because what we didn't want to do is start to pay this firm or put them under contract until they could document the proof of their design. So how we do that is we're going to do a pilot test. And they're going to come out and actually set up a system similar to what they would be providing at full scale, but just at a pilot level. So what they're going to do is they're coming next week to set up that pilot test. And then they're going to run the water through, the representative sampling of the water for about 3 weeks. And they'll take a bunch of samples of the raw water and the finished water. In other words, the water coming in and the water coming out. And then what they'll do is, okay, what do we have coming in and what do we have coming out? And is it effective at treating it and removing it? So if they document proof of their design, then we're going to move on to the next step, which is then the town will officially provide an award and go under contract with this Lowprest firm. And then what we do is then we work with them to move on to full-scale design using their package, so we know exactly what we're going to be designing around. And that pilot test is, like I said, going to be done next week on May 15th, and it's a 3-week process.
Shouldn't that be going when all the wells are running?
Yes, sir. We're going to set it up so that we can run all the wells at once. And then we'll have a representative sample of the blended water. Okay, so what I want to share with you is kind of our anticipated project schedule from here on. So right now we're in what's called phase 1, which is the preliminary design phase. And that's all the stuff that we've been going through so far. And then once we get through the pilot test and we start, and we go into a 30% design, which is then we start putting the plans together. And so that puts us through 30% completion of the plans and documents. And then once we do that, then we move on to phase 2, which is, and the phase 1 gives the town the opportunity to make sure that what we're doing is ultimately what they want, okay? So the purpose of that is just to make sure that all the groundwork is there and everybody's in agreement before we move into final design. So then phase 2 is the final design and ultimately bidding the project. So, sorry, phase 1 is, we're anticipating December 2023 as a completion. Phase 2, which is our final design phase, and then ultimately putting all the documents together to allow us to take it up to public bid and get a contractor on board. That'll take us into September 2024. And then the water treatment equipment package delivery, based on low-press schedule to us, will be sometime around August of 25. So it'll take about a year or so to assemble the package and deliver it. So that'll be there in time for us to have a contractor on board, and then they'll ultimately be able to put the equipment and install it as part of their contract, the construction contractor. So that's phase 3 is the construction, anticipating 18 months. So completion date of August 2026 for the plant to be commissioned and online. Any questions?
Who do you work for?
I work for Anderson, Perry & Associates, an engineering firm.
Out where? Anderson, like Anderson Engineering?
Different firm.
Okay.
I'm out of Redmond, but our main office is in LeGrand, Oregon.
And you did a test on the water already?
Yes, ma'am.
And it was...
Several tests.
It was brought up to 11 points of mineral things I seen in the paper. 11 particles of minerals or something. Was that your test?
They're going off what was off the OPB thing.
Amber will be talking about that.
Yeah, I'll talk about that next.
That was your test? Okay, I'll wait and ask my question then.
Yeah, on your schedule, you said 18 months for construction, yet you only had a year there from when it was put out to bid till you expected it to be completed. So did your schedule need to be tweaked a little bit on your, you got August of 26 or 25 for the package delivery in August of 26, but you said it's going to take 18 months.
Right, so basically, what I'm saying is that we would bid the job in about September of 24. Then you would award a contractor to an actual construction contractor about October, November of that year. Then you'd have them under contract and they would start construction of all of the infrastructure, the piping, the wells, the building that has to house the equipment. Now remember, this water treatment package is only one component of it.
Got it.
And you've got buildings and pipes and controls and pumps and everything else outside of that.
Yeah, I have a question, if I can.
Yes, sir.
The new water main that's going up to 395 there, I guess that's a new water main. Is that part of this?
No.
It's a totally separate thing.
Yes.
So will that water main, that obviously will be supplied with the treated water once
The entire distribution system will be provided with the treated water.
So how far north on the 395 will that water go?
I'd have to divert the scholar.
The treated water is going to go all the way to Goldmore Terrace.
All the way to where, sorry?
Goldmore Terrace. We serve all the way to Goldmore Terrace.
Okay.
It'll go all the way to the prison.
In the urban water district.
It'll go all the way to the correctional facility.
To the Shell station.
All right.
And we'll talk about that too.
Okay, thank you. Yep.
Yes, sir.
So I have two questions, and maybe somebody else can answer them if this isn't part of you. The blended test you said was gonna happen next week.
They'll set the pilot equipment up next week and they'll run it for 3 weeks.
And that's gonna be blended all the wells, and so what's the water quality gonna be in the town when that happens? Is it gonna be we gonna see a spike because one well is worse than another, or?
No, you're just gonna take a side stream. So we'll tap on, and you got like just like a 1-inch tap that we're gonna use that's existing. And then what this pilot, it's a very small unit on a trailer. And there's like, I don't know, there's 3 columns that are maybe a foot in diameter, maybe 5 or 6 feet tall, so it's small. And then you feed this tank from this town's water system, and then they'll feed from that tank into their system. So there's really no direct connection. We're not going to be discharging any water from this pilot to or from the water system.
Because I thought this town had like several wells, and one well was way off the charts bad, or a couple were, and so those aren't going to be tested or blended at the time?
We're going to blend every 4 of them, right? I think it's
Yeah, every well's gonna be tested. The only well that's not is number 8, and the pump's been pulled because a lot of the wells caved in. That well hasn't been used.
Yeah, it doesn't function. So all the wells will be tested out. So
At once.
at once, yes, sir.
The 2 wells that won't be tested, number 8, which we haven't used in over a year because it collapsed. And the north end well will not be tested or put into our system because about 10 years ago they quit using that well, or 8 years ago they quit using that well because the arsenic level was. So that well's been pulled out of service and so forth.
The north well is back, right?
Yeah, that's the one that used to feed, that's the one that used to feed Goldmar Terrace.
Goldmar
And
Terrace.
that, when the arsenic level went too high in that well, that's when they shut that down, and the town had to tie in and take over.
Yes, as part of our evaluation, we looked at utilizing the north well,
What about
but it didn't pencil out. Economically, it didn't make sense.
So in summary, you're testing every well in the blended test that we're drinking every day anyways, or washing our clothes in.
You will have, this test will have no effect.
Yeah. And then the timeline, the bids are 2024, August, September-ish. That's, 16 months out. What's our projection on the amount of money available? I mean, I'm just looking at inflation at 8 and 5% and 6%. And, I mean, what's your best guess? Are we going to even be close to having enough money by September 2024?
I know that the town has received $15 million as a grant through the ARPA program, which was the American Recovery Reinvestment, whatever they called it. And what we do is, through our design process, we do cost estimates constantly based on market conditions, and we deal with contractors all the time. And so we have a good beat on what the cost in the market is. And so what we attempt to do is we design a system that you can afford. We don't design a system and then hope that you can afford it. That's our goal, okay? And still meet the intent. So a lot of times we will do some innovative bidding, that we may put additive or deductive alternatives. Say that we felt like you could do a water line in town as part of the project. Then we may put that in the bid, and then when the bids were open, because you never know. I mean, you may have one bidder that shows up. You have no clue what's going to happen. But we try our best to make sure that whatever's designed, the town can afford, based on the amount of money and budget you have. Because it does nobody any good to design something that you're going to open bids up and you can't afford. Because then you're back to square one. Yes, sir.
Is the spring water going to go to this line with the rest of the wells?
No. Because the spring line's water quality is good and only lasts for like 2 months a year on average, is what I understand.
What?
Oh,
What'd you say?
That spring line right now runs enough water to run about 2 to 3 months, and the volume that we get out of it is very low since the drought hit.
That's unusual.
yeah.
It is, it's due to the droughts. We have not gotten the production out of the spring line in the last 5 years that they've normally gotten them from the record racing.
It produces over 2 million gallons a day, used to.
I have never seen 2 million gallons a day out of that spring line. I've been dealing with it for 5 years, and I've never seen 2 million gallons a day out of that spring line.
Something's wrong.
What's it doing this year? You know, just to follow up on that, what's it doing this year though? This is the first year we're there.
We're at 252
Cubic feet, million?
GPM, 252 gallons per minute, and that actually just started about
a week
ago, maybe 10 days. Prior to that, we've actually, it's been a little bit earlier last year, we had more flow. Up until about 10 days ago, we were doing about 16 gallons a minute. How long is it gonna last? You know, I know we got a lot of snowpack up there. Is it gonna go up to those 350 gallon minutes? I don't know. You know, it's one of those things that at this point, you know, can we really gamble on it's gonna put 350 gallons a minute all summer long, or 6 months out of the year? I think it's kind of where they're going with the way it's getting produced.
Well, based on my knowledge, it's my understanding it doesn't have high iron and manganese in it.
It doesn't.
So remember, this plant is designed to remove iron and manganese. That's the problems you have with your wells. That's not the problem you have with your spring or anything. I mean, you may have some turbidity in it or something, but that's not what we're targeting with this plant. So it wouldn't do us any good to run the spring water down to the plant. It's just going to take a bigger plant or cost.
What's your services costing for the engineering firm to do all this? What's in the budget for you, your company? And will the 15 million be, I know there's a timeline on that, to be spent. Are we going to make it, or are we going to use all that 15 million that was given to us in
How much is left?
pre-treatment?
You're hoping none's left.
Well, we're hoping none's left, but I mean, how
Well,
much is
what
left
good does it do to
now?
have any left? It's drained.
How much is left now?
I mean, you want to spend it all, so if there's ways that we can spend it outside of the water treatment plant, we want to do that, and that's what I was talking about with respect to bidding the job with maybe some water line in it or something, if we felt like that you could use that money to do some replacements. Because that would be allowed.
That it?
Any more questions?
Okay, let's move on.
Hold on one more.
Where's the test plant gonna be set up at? Where's the test plant gonna be set up
It'll
at?
be at the town parking lot, so we can get a good mix of everything.
Uptown.
Yep.
Thanks, Troy. Okay, Amber, before you start, when you guys have a question, please state your name.
Or stand up so we can hear you too.
Yeah, we have to over here for you as well.
Do you need anything?
Hi, good evening. My name is Amber Hudspeth. I have a firm called Hudspeth Land and Water. We've been working with town for about 2 years doing water. Up closer. Sorry, there's my name going off to the side. We've been doing water quality testing for town before getting to the RFPs and looking at the water treatment facility. Obviously, y'all know that there were some issues with the iron and manganese and the color in the water, and so we were brought in to start doing baseline testing and sampling prior to going after the RFP and bringing on the engineer to do the plan. Unfortunately, there's really no way to make what I do interesting on a PowerPoint presentation. It just looks like the chitter that comes out of the little calculator that sits on your desk. We're just going to be rolling through numbers with that. So we're just going to talk through it a little bit, and then I have some cards that I'll put on the back table, and then if people have, I can't remember all the parts per million of all the tests, or have that available, so I can answer other specific questions online afterwards. But big picture with it is we've done 3 major testing events in the last almost 2 years. Of course, the first round of testing that we did for pesticides, herbicides, all of the radionucleotides. We did a large round of testing, right? And so then we get that data back, we analyze it, we look at that in conjunction with the wells that you have and what the flows of them were, historically, what the issues with them were. And so then we do another round of testing and evaluate that, looking for consistency or problems in the data. If we've got numbers that are high and low, we want to know why, versus, if we've got consistency in our data and you're having the same kind of feed and issue with the water quality. So that kind of got narrowed down with each testing. We do a little more testing. We take out some of the analytes, some of the issues, things we didn't have a problem with anymore, things that we had specific questions and issues about, ended up supporting Anderson Perry in their effort to work on the plans and make sure that we were getting the right variations of the minerals in the water for the testing that was done. Ma'am, you had some questions.
Yes. Questions about the particles that you listed in the paper, the 11 parts of whatever.
Per billion.
Yeah, per million
billion with a B.
B, yeah. BPGs or whatever you had behind the 11. You found none, 1 in Klamath, none in Bend, and none in Redmond. But you found 11 here in Lakeview.
So
I'm
all those
confused.
tests aren't me. I didn't find it.
No, I know. But that's what the test proved. That's what the statement was in the paper. So I'm confused. What was the 11 parts that you found? And what was the 1 you found in Klamath? And why were there 0 in Bend and 0 in Redmond?
Okay, so she's referencing the OPD article that came out. And so what was referenced in there were not tests that I actually did. That was information off of OHA, Oregon Health Authority's website, which is open to the public and everyone can look at. So for starters, lead is generally tested in parts per million. It's reported in milligrams per liter, so that converts to parts per million. But it was 0.011 parts per million, which is converted to 11 parts per billion, which was what was reported in the article. And so, right, it's the same number, it's just a different way of reporting it by moving the zeros and changing the increment that it's reported in. And so, with lead, 15 parts per billion in your water is the point where the water system needs to do something with it. So that test that she's referencing was one that was taken in Lakeview back in 2020, which is the last time that was required to be taken.
All right, well then my second point is we have damming water here. It's terrible. We can't do, the beauticians cannot wash ladies' hair or color their hair without it turning purple. I mean, purple. Our laundry, you can't, a white t-shirt like that turns black. You can't have the water here. You turn the water on occasionally and it comes out looking like coffee.
That's the manganese.
Yeah, we have had 2 water increases. We have had, I buy water from Klamath. I don't even feed it to my dog. It's that bad. I fully believe in my heart it gives people cancer here. I really do. So by doing this water system and getting the filters that we do need here is a good thing. But I think it's a little too late, personally. A little too late for a lot of people here.
Well, if you ask everybody to raise their hand if we're too late, I think everybody would. Yeah,
Yeah.
20 years ago would have been great.
Absolutely.
But that didn't happen.
Well,
So
yeah.
now we're trying to do it now.
Well, yeah, and you should be.
Okay.
And you should be.
That's perfect. That's why I ran for city council, was to get clean water.
Well, good, and I'm glad you should, and you are.
Perfect.
Well, and it is. And I have no problem with that. But it's a little too late.
So, I don't know if there's another question there. I'm happy to answer it if there is. But, so, going back to the wells and the individual water quality tests. So, predominantly the tests that we've been taking have been at the well locations themselves, right? So we've had discussion about the color in it, being the manganese concentrations in the water. That can be complicated or added to by the iron that's also present in the water, which are the 2 primary things that the plant that Anderson Perry is working on is going to be taking care of. Just so you know, I mean, taking the samples at the wells themselves, there is some color variation to them. Some of them have kind of a yellow color, some of them have the darker, like you're saying, red, brown kind of color to them. There's a wide range of colors that came out of them, right? Wide range of chemistry and water quality within those wells. And so I think the main take home with those is that other than the iron and the manganese levels, those were the predominant issues. And those are secondary drinking water standards, right? There's the primary drinking water standards and then there's secondary standards. And iron and manganese are part of the secondary standards, which are considered to be predominantly aesthetic. So they create a smell or a color or a taste to them. And so that's what's being worked on with the plant. Yes, ma'am.
So my question is, because you said that this was tested at the beginning of the lines, at the beginning of the source. Is there any testing at the end of the lines to see if there is a difference in the levels of iron, lead, and manganese? Because on the lead, as you said, there were found to be 11 parts per billion. 15 parts per billion is that federal threshold for too much, while the World Health Organization has said it shouldn't be above 1. And manganese has been shown to be more than aesthetic in that it causes problems with nerve regeneration and mental faculties. So, again, the water treatment facility will help in removing some of the stuff, but then it's going through lines that are disintegrating because they were installed over 60 years ago. Well, again, I lost count after a while. So what has the test results of the water been shown at the end of the line?
So there are tests that are taken throughout the distribution system. I don't know that I can speak to the end of the line. I mean, to me, being a science person, that's very literal, so that's the last place where the piping terminates. And so there are...
I haven't been to the line on East Street. It ends up hardware, and that did it. And you open that, and it looks like a horse.
And I'm really curious what the difference in the testing is right there by his house versus up at the wellhead.
So I know, I'm familiar with some of the testing that happens within the distribution system. And there are some issues with, as you said, with the pipes and the disintegration of the pipes, not only throughout the primary distribution system through town, but also, you know, back of curb at people's residences, right? I mean, that's the predominant increase in lead in the system is through the fixtures and at individual residences.
And I know people who have had whole house renovations of their plumbing, and the water quality has not changed.
So they have laboratory data, or you're saying the color, or?
No, they went and had testing. They had testing done on their water after the plumbing was done, and there were no changes to it.
Well, I mean, that's, yeah, so that, you know, I mean, that's kind of relative given not knowing what was tested before and what the levels were. So, I mean, obviously we all know that the water came out of the ground, and so there's some assumed mineralization with it, and there's some things that not all filters filter all things, so that's kind of, I'm happy to look at the data if that's something that someone has available and, you know, compare it to other points in the system, but otherwise I don't know that I can really speak to that.
Right. That's fine.
Your name?
My name is Lori Crocker. We're supposed to give our name, right?
Mhm.
Okay. And I live on the corner of Third around you. But one of the things that I'm concerned about is that what have you found out about the lead? The lead component, you know, is that. What are we doing about that?
Well, so
I know we're concerned about iron and manganese and everything like that.
right. So,
What about lead?
so the lead levels at the wells has most of the wells are either non-detect or have very low levels. So what we're finding in the system, like I said, is likely coming from the pipes, be it distribution pipes or from pipes at people's residences. And so because it's not present at the source water, right? So if it's not at the beginning, and it's at the point that you sample it, then it got picked up somewhere along the way.
Oh.
And so that's what's presented. The EPA's handout suggests that most lead is associated with the piping behind curb and at individual residences.
Could that be due to old piping for old houses?
Yes.
See, it's about $1 million a mile to replace a pipe.
Right.
So if we had 42 million bucks, we could replace a pipe just like that.
Right.
I don't know how we're going to come up with that. Write a check.
I don't know, we live on grants. Well, she had a good point about people who have gone through cancer and everything. Because one of the things that cancer doctors do recommend to people from Lakeview is that you use bottled water. And I think a lot of this, you know, they talk to us a lot about all that. But I was just curious to know if it wasn't in the pipes as it went along.
Yeah, and so like I said, you know, we just recently did some additional tests within the distribution system, so around town. And so of the 5 samples that were just collected, and our data is draft data, but I think it'll be finalized in the next couple of days. But like I said, it would have bored everybody to death just to have all the numbers scrolling across the screen. It would look like the dial stuff. So, but we had 3 non-detects and 3 very low levels. So even within the distribution system within town, the levels are very, very low, like the 11 parts per billion was 0.01, while the numbers we got were 0.00 than the number. So they're much lower. So that one number was an anomaly. It was the last required sampling though through the OHA system. And so that's what was available.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Ray Sims. So I'm curious, is that I realize that you're focusing on iron and manganese, and we've known that's been a problem for a long time. But is this system that's going to be tested and possibly installed going to have any impact on some of the other potential contaminants, like small amounts of lead possibly, or arsenic? I don't know if there's arsenic in any of the wells except the north one, but there's other contaminants that people have mentioned over the years. So will any of those be impacted by the filtering
Very well could.
system?
Odor and taste, that will help with that. Color should help with significantly with color, because if you don't have iron and manganese, then you should have less color. It will remove some hydrogen sulfide, which could be, a source of odor. Rotten eggs, and that's part of our piloting, is we're requiring the vendor to test for those kind of things to see what kind of results we get, and then recommend perhaps to add on some additional, say, carbon filtering to the system to help with that kind of situation with odor and taste and things. And yes, so the answer to your question is yes, inherently.
And big picture to that also is just the initial testing. That's why we've done a couple rounds of testing, and we've done summertime testing, and we've done wintertime testing, right? And so doing it different times of years when the wells have been running at different volumes. Also, we all know that we're in the 5th year of exceptional drought. I mean, it was extreme drought, and the Water Master came up with the exceptional drought term. And so all of those things affect, right, the volume and potentially the quality of the water coming out of the wells. So we wanted to do the wide range of testing in the first 2 rounds of testing to make sure that anything else that could be identified that could be a problem, that we knew what it was, and so that the plant could potentially address it.
Well, lead may not be technically a problem, as far as the standards are concerned, but it's certainly a problem. People have a problem with lead. It's so much talked about across the country. We got Flint, Michigan, and other issues, that even if it isn't a hazard, or hadn't proven a hazard at a low level, it is certainly something that people are concerned about. So if that can be dealt with while you're doing all these other things, it really probably should be. In order, back to the original discussion we had this evening about housing and encouraging people to come to Lakeview, one of the things that probably we need to be thinking about is this project is going to impact the livability of Lakeview. I hear people mention this, water quality from time to time as a reason why they either don't come or they've left. There's probably other things too if you dug into it, but while we're doing this, if we can afford it, we need to address as many things as we possibly can.
And that totally makes sense, I totally agree with that, but just to reiterate, at the wells, at the sources, right, that's not where the lead is. Right, so it's coming within the system, and doing something about somebody's house is a different issue.
Well, a lot of the system has already been replaced with plastic pipe too, back to your comment of 42 miles, well actually there's quite a lot of miles of that's already been replaced with plastic pipe. So it's not 42 miles anymore.
Less than that.
Yeah.
How about uranium? You checked for it?
Yes, we did check for a number of radionucleotides, and they were non-detect.
Good.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Okay, let's move on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amber.
All right, skateboard. Mike McGowan and Jeff Kelly. Here you go, my dear.
Just like that.
So I'm Mike McGowan. I know a lot of you in the room, but I don't know everybody, so let me just say that I'm new to Lakeview. My wife and I moved here 6 years ago when we bought the sound booth factory that's out in the industrial park. One of the first things that we did was to join the Rotary Club, and that was because we didn't know anybody in town, and we needed to find a way to meet people and to participate in our town. And it has been a wonderful experience for us. And we've been able to be involved in lots of projects, which is what Rotary tends to focus on. And what I'm going to talk to you about for maybe 10 minutes is the skate park project, which is a current Rotary Club project. So about a year ago, the idea of Rotary taking on the development of a skate park came from Chuck Kelly, who's standing at the back of the room, and his idea was that Rotary should try and develop another recreational feature in town for young people. We do a really good job here with school sports, but school sports don't serve everybody in the schools. There are certain kids that are more individualistic or less athletic, and for them, they need to find something else to do to keep themselves healthy and occupied. And there are a lot of kids in town that skateboard around, but we don't have a dedicated facility. And so they tend to skateboard in the street or on the sidewalks or on private property. Have you ever been to the library? And that's not the safest way to practice that sport. And yet, nowadays, skateboarding is an Olympic sport. And so there have been a lot of efforts over the last, say, 15 years to build a skate park someplace in town, but none of them have come to completion. So with Chuck's guidance, we sat down as a group in the Rotary Club and said, gee, how could we go about this? And the first thing that we did was we kind of took an informal survey in town, and we asked, it was the warmer months last spring, we went to the public events and we had a clipboard and said, gee, if a skate park was built in town, do you think that would be a good thing? Is this something that we should look at and pursue? And we got about 600 positive responses. Well, in a town of our population, 600 people who say, yeah, let's give this a try. That's a pretty solid endorsement of the idea. It's just a beginning, but it was a good start. So we went to the town council and we introduced the idea for the project and explained how we would go about it and a couple of the key facts. One of the facts is that the park needs to be built on land that is actually owned by the town, parkland. And the reason for that is that there's a law in Oregon that says in case somebody falls down in a public park, if it's just a public park and it's non-supervised activity, there is no liability that attaches to the injury. So you're kind of on your own health insurance if you go sit in a swing and you jump out and you break your leg. It's your issue, right? It's if it happens in a public park. So it was important for the skate park to be on public land. So that was one thing. And the second thing we realized is, as we all know, the town is not exactly flush with cash. So there wasn't, and there isn't, any money to develop a skate park. And so Rotary said, well, if we're going to make this project work here in town, we're going to have to fund it 100% private and give it to the town as a donation. So those are the two key features of this, and the council was favorably impressed with those ideas and said, okay, we'll go about your work and look around town and try and find the best places where you can raise money to build a skate park and where we can put it on public land. So we spent the last year working on that, and we did an inventory of possible sites. The town loaned us some of the time of Scott Langham, the special projects director, who helped us to see which land is owned by the town, which land would be suitable for a skate park, and maybe be not suitable for a skate park. And we came up with a list, and we, at several different town council meetings, you know, we presented the list and said, here's what we found as possibilities for a place to build this. And this is the Rotary Club's preference. And we had a preference, and we listed them in order of priority. The number one priority for us was to build the skate park in a downtown location that's easily accessible, not just to the kids who would ride their skateboards, but also to adults in the community who would be around the site and more likely to be, you know, for the kids to be visible to the adults, and, you know, and our law enforcement, frankly. We love for our kids to, you know, exercise and enjoy themselves, but, you know, let's be honest, kids can get into trouble, and we wanted to make sure that we didn't build the park in a remote location where trouble might be more likely, put it that way. There was a lot of discussion in town about whether it was appropriate to put a skate park downtown. And the priority site that Rotary recommended was the old tennis courts that sit in the park that also has the swimming pool complex. And there were a lot of public meetings and public discussion about that. In the end, the council agreed with the reasons that we thought that was the best site, and they voted to approve the use of that site. So in a year's time, you know, we've come up with the idea, the general principles, and the location, and now the next steps are to sign a lease with the town so that the Rotary Club can be solely liable and responsible for the development of that park, and then to put the project out to bid with the several of the great skate park companies, development companies that exist in the United States. An interesting fact that we learned in this process is that Oregon is #1 in the whole country in terms of the number of skate parks. So we have, I mean, we may have wet weather in parts of Oregon, but we have more skate parks here than any place else in the United States. And part of the reason for that is that the first famous skate park was built under a bridge in Portland. And that skate park development company that came from those young men and women who skated there, they've made a profession out of it, and there are lots of companies that do the same thing. And this is the name of that company, Dreamland Skate Parks. And so, you know, we have identified now 4 companies. All they do is design and build skate parks all over the United States and internationally as well. And so the next step of our project, and Dawn's got a couple of examples here of different skate park designs by these 4 companies. 2 of them are Oregon companies. One is from Seattle. One is actually in Florida, but is active nationwide and is very interested in our project. So we're going to put together a bid package. We're going to ask each of these 4 companies to explain to us why they would be the best company to help us and give us some cost estimates. And then we've got to go about the process of raising the money. You know, nothing is free. We think that it's best to use one of these design-build companies rather than to engage a local construction outfit, because we don't want to build a park or fund a park that falls apart. It's going to be a key piece of our downtown. We want it to be first class, world class, and, you know, in a facility that all our kids can use and we can all be proud of. So that's the idea. We've created, this is
Did you pick the one with the bacon and eggs? Just ask.
Yeah, she's talking about this one here. There are some really interesting skate park designs, maybe a little different for Lakeview. I don't know, we found one that was shaped like a cow, maybe. But one of the unique things about the site that we've recommended is that it's, you know, next to the swimming pool. It's a gently sloping site that goes down, but we've got a hill to the side there. And one of the members of the Rotary Committee asked, hey, you know, we have pretty rough winters, especially this last year here, and it would be nice to be able to use the skate park facility year-round. Is there something that we could do to make use of that hill a little bit? Maybe have a sled run that came down so that in the wintertime, when people might not be using their skateboards, they might be using something else in this park, where you terminate your inner tube or your sled or something in the bowl, and you're safe, and you don't go out, you don't have to go down Bullard Canyon, into the cars. So we'll be pursuing a lot of ideas like that, and I think we're coming into the fun part of this process where we get ideas from the pros. This is a picture of the site taken in drone photos. You can see the tennis courts over here and the swimming pool. We're not going to mess with the lawn here. We're just going to use the footprint of the tennis courts, which I don't think people are using right now anyway. So it's probably a better use of public property than we're getting at this moment. So that's the project. In this next year, we will be looking carefully at design criteria, taking input from the town. We have a website. It's called Wheels in Motion, and you can see it on Facebook. If you're interested, the meetings are open and everyone is welcome to come and share their ideas and help with design and fundraising and every other part of the project. This will take probably another couple of years to get finished. It depends on how quickly and how successful we're able to raise the money, what kind of response we get from these design firms, and what kind of input we get around town. But we will be routinely updating the town council about our progress at the meetings, and so watch the agendas and come to these meetings and participate. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them. Thank you very much.
There you go, Jules. You'll be fine.
I'm Scott Langham, I'm the Special Projects Manager. I got a couple things actually.
Use your microphone.
That you guys are going to be spending McDonald Park, as you know, we've got it completely tore apart right now. Put in a splash pad in. We're adding sidewalks in the park to make it easier for the elderly and the handicapped to get around the park. The shade structure that the hospital uses for their school or their summer lunch program, we're increasing that by almost double. We're building a 20 by 20 structure there. We're going to be adding concrete picnic tables there, concrete benches, so they won't get drug all over the park or disappear. That project is moving along pretty good. We're hoping to be done by June 10th, depending on the weather. Now that it's drying out and we're done sloshing around in the mud over there, hopefully things will go a little bit better than it has. But the main thing in that park is we're trying to make it easier for the adults and the elderly people to get around that park and the kids that are in wheelchairs. That's the main focus of that.
Can you hold the microphone?
Yeah.
There we go.
I don't like that. So that's what we're doing in McDonald Park. Does anybody have any questions on McDonald Park? Yes.
The mural.
Yes.
The mural, was that contracted out or?
Yes, it was.
Who painted that?
It was actually my daughter.
Your daughter?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful.
She's an art student at...
Who was she and where is she from?
She's actually from but she's been in Lakeview for 7 years. And we moved up here from Reading. My wife is 5th generation here and my grandparents live here.
And her name?
Maisie Langham.
Okay.
She'll be back this summer. She goes to college over in Ashland.
In Ashland.
Yeah, she's
okay,
an art
wonderful.
student.
Nobody has told us anything about it. All we did was one day it was not there and the next day it was there. All I seen in the paper was somebody, you had to submit your brand. That was it. No one said anything about the girl or the person who painted it.
She's
so
pretty
we
shy.
wanted to know.
Yeah, she's pretty shy.
All right, thank you.
There'll probably be a little bit of touch up on that after the construction of the park because there was some concrete.
It's very nice, but I wanted to know who did the mural.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just wanted to know, at one point you had talked about putting in gates that closed automatically so that the dogs don't just run in and out of the park? Is that something that's still on the table?
That will depend on funding.
Okay.
That park, like it was brought up when we talked about the water plant, the cost of goods right now is pretty crazy and unpredictable. So it'll depend on funding. Because I'd like to replace the fence completely around that park. The fence is upside down, actually, that's put up there. It needs to be pulled down and turned over. And a lot of the gates do need to be replaced. If we have the funding, I would like to do that. And the next phase of that park, as we get grants, is I'd like to redo the bathrooms there.
Yes, that would be nice.
So that's kind of the game plan for the park. I think that park is used more than any of the other parks in town.
Absolutely.
By kids and
Travelers, everything.
Travelers, exactly. So we're hoping, it's going to be a nice place when it's done. The splash pad's coming out really good. The kiddie pool that was there was cracked pretty bad and leaking pretty bad, so we definitely got our time out of it.
So why don't you tell them about the picnic tables and all this stuff we're putting in?
Yeah, I brought up the concrete picnic tables. That's the other thing, is the concrete picnic tables, I worked with a company down in Reading called Concrete Creations. That's what they do, is these picnic tables. The cost of the picnic tables for that park would have been about $45,000. They sold us everything delivered to Lakeview for $7,000. So we definitely need to recognize them. And that was, my son drives truck for them, that's how I got hooked up with them. And they like to support the small communities. They're a small family-owned business, and they really push to support the smaller communities. And Lakeview's not the only community they've done that for. They've done that for quite a few small communities in California, Oregon, and Washington.
Wonderful.
Yes, Michael?
Scott, can you explain the difference between Can you explain the difference between the kiddie pool that was there before and how the splash pad will work?
The splash pad's almost like a glorified sprinkler system. This turtle right here is going to be the center of the splash pad. It'll actually squirt water up through it. The kids will walk into the splash pad, they'll hit a button, so the water doesn't just sit there and continually run. And then each one of the water features will shoot water out as the kids run through there. The other thing we did, because of the drought, we added 2 3,000-gallon recovery tanks. So we'll recover 6,000 gallons of water a day, or up to 6,000 gallons of water before that water goes to sewer. We'll use that for irrigation in the park. So we're trying to conserve as much water as possible. Yes, sir.
Is that treated water that goes into there?
That is not treated water. That is water from our water. Well, it'll be treated through our water plant, yes. That's the question.
Were you able to get the barbecue?
Yes, we'll be adding new concrete barbecues there instead of the old metal ones. And there'll be also handicap, at least one or two handicap picnic tables there that are set up for wheelchairs.
Yeah, Scott, one question or comment, seeing how you mentioned the skate park and the splash pad. We're probably all aware that our state legislature passed a law about homeless people being able to set up camps or residences on public land. And so I was just wondering if the town can counter that by an ordinance or something like that.
I believe they are working on that. That limits, we have to, like you said, legislation passed where we have to give areas for homeless to camp on public ground. But we are trying to narrow that down where it's very limited to where they can be. And the parks will be exempt from that, where we can eliminate that from our parks to try to keep the kids safe.
Great, thank you very much.
Yeah, it can be any public land that we're thinking about at the canyon.
Scott, should you let them know that we had a grand opening to let everybody, like all the grants that we got for that part?
We will, as Michelle just brought up, we will be having a grand opening once the park is complete. We could not do this job without the Oregon Parks Association, State Parks Association, and from the Collins Foundation. They're the biggest two grants that we got to support this park. So without them, this would not be happening, for sure. And, you know, we've had really good luck with our engineering firm and Public Works, trying to make sure we know where everything is, that we don't tear everything out of there when we go in there. So it's definitely, we'll have a grand opening, probably have a barbecue and a big public deal, and to recognize everybody that's been involved with that part. You have any more questions?
Okay, if not, Scott, while you're still there, you can talk about smart meters.
So smart meters, water meters. They're about 200 years old in this town, it seems like. We have meters that run backwards, we have meters that don't run at all. We have partnered with Sustainable Systems in a public-private partnership, and we'll be replacing all of our meters with remote read meters. So you won't have 4 months out of the year where they don't read meters because it's snow anymore. So we'll be a little bit more consistent with that because everything will be done remotely. And that helps with Public Works also because it frees up the man hours of about a week and a half. We have our whole Public Works crew out there reading meters. So that'll take care of that. Along with that, to help with the water quality issues, we'll be replacing all what they call the service lines, which is the line from the main to the meter. And as we do that, we'll be GIS on all of our pipe. We'll be recognizing what, as Ray mentioned earlier, a lot of it's been changed. So we'll be able to get a good count of what's been changed, the size of what hasn't been changed, and the quality of it. We have a lot of what's called direct tap servicing. We'll be getting rid of those and putting corks on the pipe. And everything that we'll be doing will be poly instead of galvanized or copper. So when we're done with that, we'll have a idea of what really actually needs to be replaced in here. And we'll also have a GIS system that you can go look on the internet. It'll show you where all the pipes run, where our sewer's running, the depth of the pipe, and everything else when we get done with that project.
When are you going to do this project, Scott?
We're hoping to start in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So we're on 2 more contracts. The vendor that's supplying the meters already have them in stock and ready to go. Brass is a little bit of a problem right now. So I think if we get held up, the 2 things that will hold us up on this project will be meter boxes and brass. We have enough to get started, but we'll see if the vendors can deliver in time for us to continue. This project will probably take all of this summer and a good part of next summer to complete. So you guys will be getting notices, people who live in town on town water will be getting notices on your door a week prior to us coming through, because we will have to shut your water off for a period of time to do this.
Any additional cost to the end user for these smart meters?
At this time, no. It's all part of our system update that we're doing. I know everybody's complaining about the 2 water hikes that we have, but this is all part of being able to pay for this, is the water rates. Lakeview's water rates are probably the cheapest in the state right now.
So
Just a second. We already put smart meters in at one time, but no one followed through with it. And now, if you're going to put smart meters in, are you going to replace them, the meter that's in the ground with 5/8, 3/4, or 1 inch?
So the residential will be 3/4 just like they are now?
No, they're 5/8. They went to 5/8 because it was cheaper. But it needs to be 3/4 because of the magnesium iron in there that's, with the strangle.
All the service lines I know will be replaced with a 1 inch service line, and they'll neck down to the meter, which will be, are they 3/4, Sean?
I think so.
Yeah, 3/4 inch residential.
And the meters that are 1 inch, you will replace with a 1 inch meter? Okay, so everybody will name it.
And I don't know when smart meters were put in down in Lakeview, but I have,
It was prior to 80.
Well, they weren't smart meters.
When, they put in a lot of them, but no one could read the wand or figure it out. And, shit, there's several thousand.
These will actually be remote read. We'll have 3 collectors that will sit on top of our water towers. And once a month, they'll download automatically into the computer system. There won't be any driving around or walking over the meter to do them.
Good deal.
Just like PDNL. Just like PDNL did.
What's that?
Just like PDNL.
Yeah, exactly, same thing.
They did that.
But these these meters that are going in have acoustic listening capabilities. So if there's a water leak between meters, it'll be detected through the meters, and it'll come up on the computer at town hall and let us know where the water leaks are. So which was going to be crazy in the beginning, trust me. But that'll definitely help with our water loss that we have and unbillable water. You guys have any questions on that?
It's anticipated, isn't it, that once the water treatment facility is online, that water rates will go up?
Sure.
Water rates, by the time it goes online, you'll probably have another increase. Part of when we first started looking at the water plant, when we were looking at USDA loan, USDA was going to require us to do a rate study, which we are doing right now. And we were going to have to do a huge jump in your water rates all at one time, because we were going to have to come up to the state average in order to qualify for their loan. Luckily, we got this grant, we don't have to do that, and we're trying to come up a little bit at a time to kind of minimize the financial impact on everybody.
So this is a grant, but we still have to pay for it.
No, you're not paying for it.
But you're increasing our
We're bringing
rate.
our water rates up to the average for the state of Oregon, which we're not at right now. We're way below average for the state of Oregon.
Oh,
So in order for us to maintain our system and to be able to continue to repair our system, it's got to be paid for. We can't keep giving everything away for free, and that's what we're doing right now. So we have to get up to at least the state average to be able to maintain the system. Yes?
From the meter to the house, if it's the old galvanized pipe, is that
That's a homeowner thing.
for me?
That would be up to the
That's
homeowner.
owner completely compared to meter.
Yeah, we're going to do, we're responsible from the back of curb or the back of meter to the main. And we'll be replacing that. But anything from the meter to the house is a homeowner's responsibility. Any more questions? Dustin?
So if you were taking some sampling of what, or I guess documenting what the condition of the line is, I guess when you're putting this in and where your pipes are, would it maybe be worthwhile of documenting what the line, even the meter towards the house is as well? And so then you could have an idea for the community that, man, 90% of these are galvanized pipe, whatever else.
We'll have a pretty good idea because we're replacing that from the main to the meter.
Yeah.
And we'll have a good idea of what percentage of what we're going to be pulling out. I can tell you from the leaks that have been fixed in town, most of the service lines, and Sean can correct me if I'm wrong, most of the service lines in town are galvanized.
Seems like there'd be some beneficial data and maybe, it's on the homeowner, but I think we as a community, it's pretty significant. And through conversations with elected legislators or whatever else, maybe there's an opportunity down the road to look at an overarching grant program for the community to help individual homeowners to be able to replace that stuff. And so having that data now may help down the road.
Definitely, definitely. And there are grants out there for homeowners to help with their water issues under the Safe Water Act, just like what we work under. You just got to kind of watch for them. They don't come up a lot, but they do come up to help homeowners replace galvanized pipe or lead pipe or old plumbing in their house.
And that's something the homeowners apply for.
Yeah.
Scott, when you're replacing meters, you're going to know what's hooked up to the house side.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
So you need to notify the homeowner at that time, probably, maybe through their water bill or something, so that they're aware of whether they have plastic or copper possibly, or a galvanized.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're gonna, maybe it's not all the way to the house, maybe they patched a leak, but that will give them some information about what they're dealing with.
Yeah, we'll know what's right at the meter, and we can document that. I'm glad you guys brought that up, because I'm building spreadsheets. I have to track serial numbers of meters and everything as they go in, and it'll be really easy to add another column that just tells us, what materials on the other side of the meter. So that would be pretty easy for us to do. Any other questions?
Okay, let's move on. Scott?
Yeah, you're still stuck with me. Which one am I on? North End Water. You guys have seen that project moving along on the north end. That's a water and sewer extension that the town was looking at doing 3-4 years ago, I guess it was, and we could not afford to do it. The county had some money that they were willing to put up. The county's doing that job, which we're very thankful for. And then they're gonna gift it back to the town because they don't supply water, they don't supply sewer. So that project is gonna serve a lot of those businesses out there and those homeowners that are having well problems and sewer problems, like the Shell station. That's why they have porta potties out there. Because they have a bad sewer system and the water system's not the best. So that's a very good project, I feel. Last time I checked, which was yesterday, they're on schedule, they're moving along good. That's all C900 pipe that's going in there. So the contractor's out of Redmond that's doing that, Redmond or Ben, and they seem to be doing a very good job out there. Yes, sir.
So I also heard, and whether it's a rumor or not, are new sewer lines going up north of town also? Are you putting a sewer system?
That'll be a water and sewer extension out there.
Both water and sewer?
Yep.
So the residential businesses will be able to connect, obviously, to...
They have the opportunity to connect or stay on their existing well and septic system. It's up to them. Yes?
Do you have ETA for the project?
What's that?
Do you have an ETA for completion?
I can't hear you.
Do you have an estimated time for completion on the project?
The schedule that I have that was sent to me at the beginning of the project was like about the middle of August. They should be done out there. Yes?
I was told that for the homeowners and businesses out there, from the sewer line to the hookup was free, that it was included in the grant.
That's up to the county. The county has full control over that project at this point.
Okay.
So that's how the county's handling that, I'm unsure, but the county is dealing with that. I know after the project will be given back to the town, there will be hookup fees.
Right.
Because that's how we support our system.
Yeah.
So if the people out there are getting on through the county and whatever the county has arranged with them is between them and the county, but once we take that over, there will be an SDC charge to hook into that line.
Exactly. Now, they're requiring to hook up to it to be annexed into the town.
Yes, that will have to happen.
Okay, now what if we want to opt out of that?
It'll depend on if and when the town gets to the point of doing the annexation. It could be 10 years down the road, it could be 2 years down the road. It's hard to say. And it'll depend on where your property sits.
How far is the sewer station?
As far as the water line, and I believe that's all the way out to the church out there, and the water line, if they're doing phase 1 and phase 2, will actually connect and loop into the Goldmore Terrace water system.
But the sewer?
The sewer's going all the way out to the church as far as the line's going.
Just to the church? Which church? The Catholic, I mean the North Church, right?
Yeah, I think that's what just out past the Shell station there?
Yeah.
Well, when I talked to Barry Schulenberger, he come by the house with a letter. He made it sound like if you wanted to do that, you had to annex in right now.
Well, it's not a matter of annexing in now. You have to sign a consent to annex in order to hook up.
Which?
And whether the annex happens in 2 weeks or 10 years, who knows?
Oh, okay, so it's not automatically annexed?
No, it's not automatically annexed in. There's a whole process that has to go through in order to do the annexation.
Well, I guess I better go see a commissioner, huh?
Yeah, because I don't have an answer for you when the annexation will happen. At some point it will. I don't know if it'll be, like I said, this year, next year, 5 years from now. I have no idea.
You really don't have a choice.
What's that? If you are hooked to water, city water and sewer, and they do an annexation, you have no choice but to annex into the town. Do you have any other questions?
Okay. You want a break?
No, because I gotta talk with Sheila now.
I'll talk first.
You can talk first.
Struble. Can you hear me? I'm Sheila Struble with the town. And I'm here to talk a little bit about our DLCD grant, which was for $85,000 from the Department of Land Conservation and Development, focusing on the town's
I can't hear you.
strategic investment, in walking and biking infrastructure. Of particular importance of the rural transportation program in helping small rural communities improve facilities that help people who have less access to cars and don't drive. Staff members identified 3 projects around Lake County School out of the 2021 Transportation System Plan to advance with engineering design work in hopes of success in applying for a Safe Routes to School grant. And Scott's going to briefly go over which projects. There's 3 of them.
So yes, you guys are stuck with me for a little bit longer. One of the main projects we're looking at is 3rd Street and H, that really weird intersection right there. It's really wide. We're looking at that and working with the engineers to kind of straighten that intersection up, narrow it up, and turn it more into a T intersection, so it's not so far across for the students when they're trying to get across the street before the kid comes through there 80 miles an hour and runs them over. So we're looking at redesigning that intersection and kind of cleaning that up a little bit to make it a lot safer for the kids. The other project number 2, is South 3rd to South P Street, where we're missing a bunch of the sidewalk from 3rd to P from the high school. The biggest challenge on that is Pacific Power's power poles are right in the middle where the sidewalk needs to go. So we'll be working with Pacific Power as we design this to make it safer for the high school kids and the other kids getting around the high school and for sports events down to P Street. And the 3rd project is South High Street to South 9th, which is also a sidewalk infill where we're missing a lot of sidewalk. And if we could get the funding through, we got the small grant to help with the design and to recognize these projects. If we can get the funding through Safe Routes to School or other grant projects, these are going to be probably our top priority projects around the schools right now to help clean the sidewalks up and give more sidewalk space for the kids. And that's what we're doing with the DLCD grant.
And project 1 will be to 100% completion, so that it would be shovel ready to present for the Safe Routes.
Good.
Yeah. And then the other 2 about 10 to 15%, so then we can start developing those as we go. And then we're also going to be trying to set up a walking tour for this area, and we'll have signs and more information as the project goes along. And it's right now tentatively for May 25th at 3 p.m. at the Daily Middle School.
Good.
So that's how we have for now. Any questions?
Hi, my name is Christy Singleton, and I live at 349 South I. I live right between the high school and A.D. Hay Middle School. Well, right there. I was a huge instrument, Ray, with Ray's help, in getting the 4-way stops put around all of the schools there. I don't understand why we cannot have daily patrols there at the schools from 7:30 till 8:30 and then from 2:30 till 4. I don't understand why we can't have more patrol for speeders.
That's actually a question that you'll have to ask the Sheriff's Department, because the Sheriff's Department handles all the policing.
Well, the last time I took it up with Ray, he said he would help me on that occasion.
They have been down there.
Not,
I've seen Callie down there.
the girl that works at the high school, she comes one time around before she goes to school and works.
I know Dodson has been stopping people down there.
Oh, I know. He got one guy who came and ran through there at 60 miles an hour, and when I talked to him, he said that ticket would cost him upwards of $6,000. Now, we need more than just one time a week. Those kids are our priority. And we need more than just one time a week. And I'm begging you, Ray, you sat there
Come on, Ray.
You, Sheriff, again.
Please,
Okay.
thank you.
To add on to that, right there between the girls softball field and the football field, there's a lot of pedestrian traffic going across there, especially if foul ball goes. You get these kids that dart out there to shag that foul ball.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be nice to have.
L Street, that's what.
Yeah.
Where the tennis courts are?
Yes.
Yeah.
We've talked about that, we've brought that up a million times. That whole area, we've brought that up.
Well, I really appreciate
To have more patrols there.
I really appreciate you looking at a sidewalk down 3rd Street out to T. We need it. There are, you can talk about speeders where you are, but I don't have stop signs.
Everywhere.
I don't have stop signs. But the children are out there, and I just think we need that. And we have a lot of bicyclists too, and with Rockman's Park there and everything, because I'm an advocate for kids walking to school. But I thank you very much for including that. Those kids need it.
Yes.
And
we
that
do
maybe
need
will
a safe
slow
route,
down some
and
of
I
the
applaud
traffic.
you for that.
We'll be
Thank you.
working on it.
We're trying.
We are.
And I appreciate transportation plan that will be,
Lori, we're
you know,
working
as
on
a
some signs that flash, that say caution, as they flash.
Yes.
Maybe
What?
that'll get there. Flashing signs, we're working on that. To put caution signs up.
Speed signs.
Speed signs.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah, that's what we're working on.
You know, actually, because I live there and I monitor that whole corner, you know,
Right.
because I have so many kids that come up and down there. But that really would be a great thing. If we could have little markers going into Seropolis Park would be helpful. So that people know where the road is.
Some better signage.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. And this project needs to be completed by June 30th of 2023 for all the design.
For the design,
Yeah, not for the new sidewalks, that's a whole nother grant we're trying to get.
Quick question, you said down to T Street on 3rd, South 3rd? T is in Tango?
What's that?
T is in Tango, not E is in Echo?
T is in Tango, correct.
Okay.
So right down there, that's right down 3rd, past the school, past out where you live there, all the way down, and we want to get the sidewalks built in.
So there was a time when I was on the school board and we had a safety committee because of the issues around the high school and kids and buses and all that stuff. And I don't know if they would even be interested, but right in front of the high school, you don't see them parked there as much as they used to be, but where the parking right in front of the high school is on 3rd, that sidewalk starts, or the crosswalk starts way back at the front of those vehicles. And there was a time that committee suggested maybe bringing the sidewalk, or not necessarily the sidewalk, but kind of a peninsula of concrete out to the street level. So those kids would have a place to stand.
Where they can see the
Where
traffic.
they can see the traffic versus darting out across there. And so I don't know if the school's probably not in a position to do that, but maybe through this grant, if there was some potential money, it may be a good connection point there.
There is some issues, especially around the high school, that we're going to try to address with some of these safe routes to school grants. One of the things is what Jay just mentioned, is we're going to put flashing crossing signs up to help get people's attention and everything else. And that's all part of the Safe Routes to School grant, which we have a pretty good chance of getting because we're an underutilized rural community. I've done a lot of those signs down south when I worked in California for a lot of the small communities. They're very effective. So we're hoping as we get this, we had this $85,000 or $89,000 grant
85.
for the design. And so if we have those ready, that just puts us in a better position to go after these grants because it shows the grant committee that we're committed to do these projects. And we're willing to put up what we have to put up to get these projects moving forward. So that's why we're going through this to do it, and hopefully we can bring some of that Safe Routes to School money into our community and deal with some of these issues in the school. Because all the schools need some kind of flashing light or something at the school for the school crossings.
Yeah, none of them have dip-ins like other schools in other communities where they pull in and drop off their kids.
Yeah, there's a lot of
They're all
improvements.
just straight streets.
Yeah, there's a lot of improvements in all three of the schools.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the many projects that we're going to be working on.
Yep.
Any further questions on this project? And then also, if you've noticed the signs around the room too, there's little QR codes and that takes you to more information on our website. We've been developing and trying to add more information for the public on our website. And if anyone doesn't have that, townoflakeview.org. So if you want to look up stuff, we'll be, as projects move along, we'll be putting information on those sites. And we're back to Scott again.
You guys are still stuck with me.
Roberta Road.
So Roberta Road, we got a small city allotment grant. And we're going to work on fixing the intersection at Roberta and Missouri, the giant pothole. And we're going to be paving from Missouri as far as we can. Hopefully we'll make it to 140 because of all the utility cuts that are in that road. We have, Michelle, that 250 we have on that grant? $250,000 in that. It's in design right now. Hopefully we'll get that paved late this year or next year, depending on the weather. What we're kind of waiting on is to see what green cement does. I don't want to pave that road and then put a bunch of oversized loads on it and push it out. So we're going to kind of wait and see what happens there. And then hopefully get that paved. And hopefully not turn it into a racetrack. Yes?
Will there be any other paving projects in town?
Not at this time. And as we go through and do this meter job, there's going to be a lot of patches. And as we assess our pipe, then after we get our pipe assessed and we know what mains have to be replaced and what mains don't, we'll start working on a paving plan for town. The last thing I want to do is spend a bunch of money paving and then a year later rip it up to replace the water main.
Yeah. No, I know Roberta's really bad, but the main arterial between the hospital and the highway is just, it's terrible.
It's terrible, yeah.
And now with, the attraction going in there with the water park, I don't know whether that would be another opportunity maybe to look at that project in the future.
Definitely, that road there is probably going to be one of the first ones that we look at because of access to the hospital. It's pretty rough when you're doing like 40
When you're
down
in
through
an
the
ambulance.
Yeah. Starting to bounce patients out of beds and moving them. But no, that is one of the roads that we're definitely going to look at first on our paving plan. The main thing is we do our finish through there, we'll be able to get a good assessment of the water main that runs down through there to determine what we need to do with that main prior to paving. Dustin?
So with Roberta, it sounds like you're not positive on getting down to 140, so that's going to be kind of a...
It's going to be as far as our money can take us, and that's all based on the oil index, and if you watch the price of fuel, that affects the price of asphalt.
So I guess if that's kind of a moving target, and obviously you're probably going to be paving in the summer, it'd be nice to have kind of a heads up at the Department of Forestry.
Definitely, we'll let you guys know what we're doing.
Can maybe have alternate plans for our emergency service vehicles to come in and out.
Yep, and I'll have a pretty good idea when we start about how far we're going to make it, so we'll know if we're going to get to you at the very start of the project or not. And I'll stay in touch with you and let you know where we're at on that.
And there's a big project going in right there too that we may have to look at as well. Right, Dustin? There's a project going in there?
We're probably 10 years down the road.
Oh, I just got the plan, so I was just asking.
It's just master plan.
Yep, okay.
Budgeting. So I got one more thing to talk about, and you guys are done with me.
Okay.
Just one more thing about I mentioned Roberta Road. I realize it's not, this grant isn't going to cover it, but probably something for near future discussion and possible maybe re-engineering is putting in a large culvert where Bullard Creek comes in and hits that T right there on Roberta. Because that last flood that we had, that was a major issue. And if we could have that water just go straight under Roberta and then head out towards the west and then eventually go to Common Street, you know, that might solve some of that flooding.
Yeah, there's as you know, because you spent some time with the Forest Service, there's a lot of flooding issues in town. I'm working with the people that built the dam with the state right now on cleaning out a lot of the ditches and streams to help alleviate some of that. And we will be looking at some of our culvert sizes and some of our intersections where culverts teet. You know, it's obviously going to be in the future, but we're trying to look at the issues that we've had over the years, or at least 6 years that I've been here. My wife's been here a lot longer, but the issues that we've had, so we don't continue to keep beating our head against the wall and fighting these issues.
And we're not out of the woods yet because we still have a lot of snow.
Oh no, we have a lot of potential left.
Yeah, over 300
Especially-
inches.
Especially getting up in the 70s next week.
Yeah.
I monitor the dam daily. I'm up there every day checking to see what water.
If it rains and we got 2 hot days, we're in trouble.
Oh yeah, yep. So the last thing I'm going to touch on a little bit is geothermal. We had a pretty big failure on our south well. We broke a shaft on the pump. We've lost about 150 feet of depth on that well. That was fun to measure. But I got Klamath Pump and Brian Brown Engineering working on that. Hopefully, if things go right, we should possibly be putting things back together in late next week. The bottom side of that well is, according to the well log, is what they call a dead zone. There's not a lot of aquifer there. Most of the aquifer on that well is from 725 feet up. So that shouldn't affect us. But in order to drop that pump, we want to drop the pump 100 feet to get it deeper in the aquifer. That well goes from 12 inch to 9.8 inches. The current pump is 9.9 inches.
This is the south well?
The south well for the geothermal.
Right.
So
How many houses are on that?
None. It's
None?
the hospital and the schools.
The hospital and the school?
Hospital, schools, the new dentist's office, and Head Start.
Oh, so that's southwest,
It's right on 395 in the south end of town.
the south end of town, on the southwest.
Out past where Red Rock, right?
Yeah, about Red Rock.
So hopefully, if everything goes right, the pump guy will have the pump taken care of and fixed, and we'll have everything ordered. And I'm hoping to start putting that back together next week or the following week, so the hospital and school quit calling.
Yeah.
So do you guys have any questions on the geothermal or the paving or anything in this?
Are you gonna hook any houses up to the geothermal?
Not at this time.
Just the school and
Yeah.
just the businesses?
Yeah, well, just the schools right now, and then the new dentist office is on the return side, so they
Right.
don't draw really hardly.
That's a
anything
new
off of that.
business, but it's in the industrial area
Right, right. And it's up to the business if they want to hook up to or not. And
on that
at
part.
this point, it's not real expensive, but it's expensive to hook up to. Do you have any other questions? Yes?
So has that well or pump not been working since a couple months ago when they went down to school closures for it?
Nope, that pump went down last week.
Okay, so it's a different one.
No, it's the same one. We had another failure out there.
Different
In
bill.
February, we had a VFD which controls the pump. That was, it's 12, that VFD is 12 years old, and the VFD failed. And then this last failure, the actual shaft that runs from the motor down to the pump, that drives the pump, we broke the shaft.
Okay. I was just curious, since it sounded like it was the same system and
Yeah,
it was the same.
we were down 6 days when we lost the VFD. By the time we got one ordered and got it here, I think it's 5 or 6 days. And we've been down since last week, Monday of last week, is what we're doing on this time. Do you have any other questions?
Okay.
Fine.
Thank you, Scott.
Shut it up.
Budget?
Yes. So, just a few housekeeping things before we go into the budget. Thank you so much for coming. It's been really wonderful to have the community involved with these 2 meetings last couple of days. And the input is invaluable to us. The next thing is next week, Thursday, May 18th. at 6:30 to 8, till 8 at the Elks Lodge is a reception that is being put on by Next Renewables, who just purchased the Red Rock property. They will be here, the CEO, the president, their communications director, their contracts person, and they want to meet you. So it's an open bar, and we'll have hors d'oeuvres for you. So please come and introduce yourselves to the new owners of the Next Renewables Biofuel, and have your questions ready for what they're expected to be doing on that property and what their timelines are. So next week, Thursday, 6:30 to 8. Thank you. So I have some extra copies of the budget that you can come up and get, and I also will have it posted on our website tomorrow. I wanted to present it to council. It has gone through the budget committee and is at your desk for adoption. I'm not ready to give you the resolution to adopt it until next week, but I do want the community to be able to look at the budget and to comment on it, so that if there's any changes or any really great, brilliant ideas out there, we can hear them before it goes into a resolution for adoption. And that is all that I have on the budget. Oh, do you have questions? Okay, so it's going to be posted online tomorrow. We'll send out a link through social media, but you can always go to the townoflakeview.org's website. We keep that updated with almost everything you can imagine on there. So please make it a habit to come and see and go onto the Lakeview website, because we have all of these projects on there, and you'll start to see where the town is heading and all of the different things that we're trying to accomplish, which we're doing a lot, and I'm really excited about it. I'm really proud of our team. I'm really grateful for all the people who came down and helped. So thank you so much for coming and for your expertise. And so I'm going to turn the time back over to the council.
Okay, does anybody have anything else you want to add? Go ahead.
So, I want to talk about.
I can't hear you, Amanda.
It says it's on.
We'll go closer to
Okay.
There you go.
Sorry. So I want to bring up two things, and I know you guys probably feel like I'm beating a dead horse on this by now, but one of the things is the housing development that you guys all had the meeting on last night, and I know that the planning. No,
please do not discuss that in this public meeting.
Okay. So I'm not trying to discuss it. What I
know, but it hasn't, so Amanda, let me explain. It has not gone to my council yet.
Okay.
And because it has not gone to council, if anybody discusses it with them, they will have to recuse themselves, and they will have to bring somebody from another town to do this. And I really am trying to keep this at a minimum.
Okay.
Please.
That I can understand.
Thank you.
So, totally understand. Second thing I wanted to discuss though was I had on April 25th sent an email requesting that for this meeting, because this was a town hall meeting where there would be a larger than usual number of participants and visitors, I requested that to the agenda was added the issue of the animal control.
Who did you send those emails to?
Michelle Perry, and she responded at the time that it could not be added to the agenda because there were people coming from out of town. And while I appreciate the small number of people who came from out of town, there is an even larger number here who are local, who have to deal with our dog issues. And we have a county ordinance number 18A that states that it is the responsibility of both the county and the town to deal with this. And that this was declared a state of emergency in 2019. We have had children bit at several schools. The most major was out at Union, which is not in the town limit. But there were bites last year with injuries at ADK and Fremont. There is a larger than normal incidence of park dogs in this community.
Can I talk about one thing?
Yep.
Okay, what happens is we have a control officer, which is Scott, and he goes out and gives a ticket. And say he gives a ticket for $200, and it goes in front of the court system, and the judge and the DA say it's only $5. So I think we need to start there and have some people that will enforce ticketing these people with dogs, because he's given 19 tickets out and they charge $5.
Agreed. I agree
Okay,
on that.
that's one of the problems we have here.
There needs to be an actual animal control officer who is.
Well, even if he writes a ticket for $300 and they charge $5, what, they would rather pay the $5.
At the last meeting that I attended, and I'm sorry, I don't remember your name, you had stated that having an animal control officer needs to be an actual law enforcement officer.
That's correct.
But yet you're telling me now that Scott is doing animal control stuff. So
He's our ordinance officer right now, okay? Law enforcement have been ticketing people. Go to the court. The court is the one that sets the fine. And if they say it's only $5, they'll pay the $5 and walk off. I don't know what else to do.
Mr. Mayor, let me see if I can.
Hold on, guys.
Let me see if I can clarify this. Can everybody hear me?
yeah.
The town of Lakeview has an ordinance for dogs, and the county has an ordinance for dogs. The sheriff's office is responsible for that. Can everybody hear me? The town of Lakeview has an ordinance for animal control. The county has an ordinance for animal control. In order to enforce the county one, that is up to the sheriff's office to enforce the county ordinances. To enforce the town, Scott writes tickets. So Scott will write tickets to enforce the city's ordinances. When those tickets go in front of the court system, the judge and the district attorney are the ones that decide what they are going to actually hold the person responsible for. In order to seize property in the United States, you have to not violate, excuse me, the Fourth Amendment, okay? And so in order to do that, you have to have probable cause. And in order to be certified to do that, you have to be fully licensed under DPSST in the state of Oregon, which means it has to be an officer in order to have seizing authority. Okay, the town does not have a police department. In order, if you want dogs' property to be seized, that is up to the sheriff's office to enforce that. That is the sheriff's office that will seize animals. That case then would go in front of the court system. Okay, that is not the town. The town does not have the authority to seize animals. Only licensed officers. Is there anything else I could clarify?
So I'm not asking for clarification on seizing.
You just want people to be held accountable.
I do want people to be held accountable.
It is not the position of this council that people should not be held accountable.
Correct.
It is, if we write tickets, if our ordinance officer write tickets, it is up to the court to enforce that. If we write a ticket, say for $200, it goes in front of the judge and the DA decides that they will drop it to $5 a month, then that is not the town. The town is upholding its ability to write tickets, enforcing its ordinance. It is up to the court system to then hold dog owners responsible.
Okay. I think you and I are kind of missing each other's points. You have Scott, who is an all across the board ordinance officer.
Town ordinance, that is correct.
Correct. I am saying that according to ordinance 18A of the county, that the county and the town share in the cost of an animal control officer. We have no animal control officer in the town or the county. And so I'm just asking that you guys please get the ball rolling on this.
It's about 350,000.
Correct. Amanda,
We have to have,
years ago, the town paid for part of the dog control officer. The county paid for part of the dog control officer. The rest of it was paid for a grant. When the grant went away, the county or the town, neither one had the money, and we don't have a facility to house the animals right now. We can't take them all out to the vet. There has to be a separate building. We used to use a Quonset hut out at the airport. I don't think that's available anymore. I think they've used it for something else. So right now, we'd have to build a whole new building. We'd have to hire another officer and try to come up with the money. That's our biggest problem right there. So what do we give up?
So so you're talking about $350,000 to run it. What is going to be the cost when the next kid gets bit and instead of a puncture wounds in the back of the head, it hits the carotid? What is that going to cost?
well, I worry about the deer too, because I work at school.
Yeah.
And I see the deer right there and I worry about them.
Oh, the deer are
I
big
mean,
issue.
I worry about a lot of things, ma'am. You know, and I would love to have an animal control officer. But right now, with trying to get a truck with cages, 24/7 watching the dog, because that's what the state of Oregon says we have to do. We've really looked into that, and we've talked about it every meeting. Okay, and we're still going to keep talking about it and try to resolve the issue. I don't think it'll happen tonight.
I don't think so either.
Okay, yeah.
Has the town council made it, put it on record and actually wrote a letter to the courts as far as, you know, explaining the situation and that $5 a month is...
Yeah, it's the DA.
The district attorney.
It's the district
DA?
attorney that
Who is it?
But you've got separation of powers. The legislative body can't interfere with the judicial.
I don't know about that. I mean, somebody could write some editorials maybe.
Who's the DA?
I don't know.
Or like they want to recall the town council, there's people who want to do that, they could recall the DA. I don't know.
And then, well, the other question was...
I missed it, dang it.
You know, you have a town ordinance, you have a county ordinance, okay?
They have
The town sits within the county. The sheriff's office is contracted by the town, right? So why can't you just have sheriff's office issue citations when it deals with this type of situation?
They have issued citations, and they have also picked up dogs and taken them out to the animal hospital. You know, if they were especially considered a dangerous dog. And they have issued the citations. They're doing what they can, but they can't be everywhere.
Right, well, I misunderstood. I thought that if it was a violation of the town ordinance, then Scott issued the citation.
At one of our meetings, I want to say a year ago, we took at length our town ordinance because it hadn't been upgraded in like 15 years. And we tried to get it so it matched up with the county ordinance. You know, so we're kind of on the same page. So it reflected that. I mean, that's what we did.
That should have been done.
So,
That's good.
anyway.
All right, well, I mean, I'm glad that you guys are working on it.
Yeah, getting on the ball.
Obviously, it is an issue.
So,
That
yeah.
needed to be done.
Maybe some of them.
I have a couple.
While we're talking about that, how many people, raise your hand, think there's too many deer in town?
How many what?
Too many deer in town?
Well, we can't control that.
No, we tried.
They come and drop off cougars and bears at the county line down there. There's nothing we can do about that.
No, but we can't control the
Have you
dogs.
guys, as
a group of representatives, representatives of the town of Lakeview, have you got together and written a letter to the district attorney and asked him to please reconsider his prosecution of these tickets? You guys are the representatives of the town. It would go a long way coming from you guys.
I think you should do that. As a group, collectively as a group, write a letter to them.
Just ask him, it wouldn't hurt.
Okay, anything else?
So I would just like to say, I've never seen a town manager or a city council do as much in the last 15 years I've lived here, have so many projects going on in this little town as you guys have done. You've really brought in a lot of grants, and I know my husband's sitting up there, but I have to say, you guys are really doing a lot of projects.
I have a question. I know this is going to be a sticky subject, and I know some people are not going to be happy about it, but I want to ask a question about missing money. There seems to be a lot of sticky fingers around here, and yes, I am.
Taking money?
Yes, I am.
Somebody's feeding you wine.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it was in the paper. There was $49,000 missing once, and there was $159,000 missing a second time. And let me finish. The FBI is supposed to be investigating a cybercrime, and it was in the bi-weekly Squeak, the lowdown, and we have not heard anything since. Now, we are not being informed about missing money, and we as a town would like to know about the budget. I know you said it's going to be out later. Fine. And all the contingency money that is in the budget. What is the contingency money for? And where is this $200,000 money that is missing, and why isn't anybody being held accountable for it? And why only a handful of people have access to this money? And why isn't 2 or 3 people signing off on this money?
Are you accusing people?
I am not accusing anybody. I am just asking where this money is and why haven't we been informed about it?
Presentation is everything. It's how
Sure.
you present your question, which came across as an accusation.
No, I'm asking.
Down a little bit.
I just asked. That was it.
Are you asking if the article in the paper that said that they were investigating $199,000 or whatever it was, are you asking if it's been resolved?
I'm asking where it's at.
The investigation is almost complete at this point in time, and there will be a press release regarding what happened.
Okay.
So
then why haven't we been told any of this?
But we do not have sticky fingers.
Well, somebody has sticky fingers.
That's you accusing them.
No.
I think
Well, where did the money go?
you will find out in the
In the press release. Oh, okay. And when will that be out?
Well, it could be in the county.
It could be in the county.
Any time now?
Sweetheart, until they can get all the information.
Well, this isn't the only, we have money missing from the county schools. We have money missing from the county. And we have money missing from the city.
Those entities have.
Yeah, I'm not saying that.
Listen.
Well, I'm asking a question.
All right, now let her talk.
The press release will be out within the 2 weeks, I will say for sure, okay?
Okay.
Regarding that. Until then, we cannot talk about it until we get the press release.
Why did you put anything out in the beginning?
Because I believe that it needs to be out to the public And so then we had an investigation. The investigation took a long period of time. As soon as it's completed and we have the report, we will have the press release out about what happened with the money. Until then, we can't talk about it, unfortunately. I wish we could. Because I would love to, but I can't. So.
And there will be arrests and people will be going to jail.
I don't know.
We hope so.
Well, we'll find out.
Okay, that's all we ask.
Well, see, here's the thing, and maybe I shouldn't speak.
Why, is there nothing else?
Nobody knows that anybody has taken any money or anything. So that's an assumption that you're making, and you know.
Well, she said it was a cyber crime, so it needs to be tracked. Huh?
It is being investigated and tracked. Sometimes when you have cyber crimes, however, you are not ever able to get back the money. How many senior citizens
I don't expect you to get back the money.
Excuse me, I'm talking, okay? Don't interrupt, please, okay? You asked that we not interrupt you.
Absolutely.
Okay, so don't interrupt. Cybercrime, sometimes you cannot recover the money because unfortunately they are becoming more and more cagey about how they get the money and people unfortunately don't catch it in time. And then the money is gone, and by the time they realize the money is gone, it's in Russia, it's in Siberia, who knows where it's at, okay?
I fully agree. I don't expect you to ever get the money back. But I do expect you to arrest whoever took it.
Well, what if they're in Russia?
If that's what it boils down to.
In Russia, I don't know what we can do.
Well, if the FBI's on it, they'll get it.
We'll figure it out.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Well, meeting adjourned.
Hold on, before everybody leaves, I need you to please sign into my book because I did not get everybody's name, address, or phone number. I need to have it for documentation.
Dawn, you didn't tell everybody the water bill.